What's up, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, joined by content producer extraordinaire over there at ACME Packing Company. He writes, he podcasts, he does it all, but more importantly, the linebacker coach at Caramel High School. It's Tyler Brooke. Tyler, how are you today?
I'm great. I found this morning I might be switching positions, coaching.
Oh, boy.
Potentially to wide receiver. So
there you go. That's right. That's where the money is. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. There you go.
I told the coach exclusively only 14-year-olds who are 6 foot or taller and way more than 205 pounds.
You've got your thresholds. I understand. Yeah. Just like the Packers. What a segue. Hey, let's start there. Let's start with the wide receiver position. Clearly, the Packers coming off a draft last season where they drafted 3 of them. They all look pretty good. Obviously, Samori Toure didn't get a ton of opportunities, but when he did in the preseason especially, he sure seemed to look like he belonged. Those guys are going to be counted on. There's no doubt about it. I know a lot of people are talking about pass catchers in general, not just wide receivers, leading up to this draft. So the obvious question is, do you think this is it? Do you think this is the year it happens, poetically enough, after Aaron Rodgers is out the door? Is this the year they take a wide receiver in the first round?
I know everyone wants to talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Ohio State kid, super shifty, all this. Every year there's one guy.
There's one. Yeah, every year there's one guy.
Really hyped up 100%. I don't think he's going to be there at 15. And then when you look at the rest of the class, especially near the top, a lot of small guys. And we all know we can talk about thresholds and everything.
Right.
Just they don't love the small guys. I think if you, instead of looking at wide receiver in the first round, I think they still could take a skill player in the first round, but it's probably going to be tight end, right? They've brought in the top 3 guys for top 30 visits. And as we learned last year, don't discount the top 30 visits for Green Bay. I think 6 of the guys ended up being drafted or rostered
last season, right? Yeah,
for top 30 visits. So you got you've got Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. You know that we are all in on Darnell Washington out of Georgia. We think the kid is Mercedes Lewis, Big Dog 2.0. The ceiling's Rob Gronkowski. Like, you're talking about
that's a pretty decent ceiling. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, future Hall of Famer. I know Paul wrote, your colleague wrote a brilliant piece for the Cheesehead TV Draft Guide, basically pointing to that fact that Washington is the one guy that if there is going to be a selection made at that position in the first round, he's the one name where, and I think people get caught up sometimes like, oh, here are the things he didn't do well in college. And sure, you can poke holes in literally every single prospect, but that old adage of don't tell me what he can't do, tell me what he can do, coupled with just projecting out, which is what the draft should be about, right? Where he's headed. I mean, you talk about the measurables, the athleticism, and the upside. Washington is, for me, the one guy at that position that's the one where my draw wouldn't really kind of hit the floor. I think any of these other guys, Kincaid, who I love, Mayer, or really any of the other tight ends in the first round would be a major shock to me.
Yeah. I could see Mayer. I think he does have that skill set. I think he's a special separator. Like, I don't think there's any other tight end in the draft class that separates like he does. But with Washington, man, there's not a lot of 6'7" guys that play like if LeBron James decided to start playing football.
Right.
And also just remember, he wasn't asked to do a lot in the passing game. Everyone's like, well, he doesn't have the numbers.
Right.
You don't see a lot of the pass catching stuff. He just wasn't asked to do it. You have Brock Bowers. You have this run heavy offense. But when he does all, I mean, season opener against Oregon, he's hurdling dudes. He's just running over people. He's literally carrying defenders down the field. It's incredible what he can do with the ball in his hands. So if he's there at 15, they take a swing on him. I know Packers Twitter is going to freak out about tight end value at 15. But in this class, where there's like 7 guys that are like the blue chip prospects,
right,
take a swing on someone with the upside.
Now, see, what's funny is like I get very excited about this prospect, but I know in my heart of hearts that it's most likely not going to happen, even as tantalizing as it is. And I'm sure Brian will be tempted when on the clock at 15. But I think much more likely, and I wonder if you agree, maybe they go offense. Maybe it's not a skill position player. Maybe it's somebody along the offensive line. But you start breaking down who might be available there. I know Paris Johnson has gotten mentioned a few times, and I don't know if he lasts to 15.
I don't think so.
But then you start kind of parsing it down. I think tackle makes a lot of sense, kind of in a vacuum. I just have trouble kind of pegging who that might be. Do you have any ideas there?
Yeah, I think the problem there is we've walked in talked through, what those first 15 picks are going to look like.
Mhm.
There's going to be a tackle run, I think, before the Packers are on the clock. There's been some,
That's kind of my sense, right? Just where the needs line up in front of them.
and there's also rumblings of the Pittsburgh Steelers might trade up to try and get in that tackle run into like as far as into the top 10.
Right.
So that's where it gets tough. I mean, if there is a guy there, they brought in Darnell Wright for a visit. I think he is the perfect right tackle. If you can, there's so much potential there. If you want to talk about moving like Zach Tom to center, suddenly you have Bach, Elton, Zach Tom, John Runyon, and then Wright.
I'm down with it.
This kid, crazy athletic. His hand usage, I don't think he has the footwork or foot speed of this guy, but when I see him pull a snatch and trap move, it reminds me of Tyron Smith. Like he gets guys falling over when he's getting them pulled in, making them lose balance. He's a technician on that front. Handled a lot of really top tier SEC pass rushers really well. He's that one tackle where I think realistically he's in that range. And if they wanted to pick at 15, didn't want to trade back, and they took him, I wouldn't blame them at all. I really think he can be a staple right tackle for like multiple years.
Do you think at all, does he have any capability of moving over to the left side, or is he strictly on the right?
If I recall, he has experience playing left. So, yeah, I'm not worried about the left versus right thing. I think he has no problem doing either. I just think he seemed very comfortable on the right side. Bakhtiari is under contract for next year. And, when healthy, he is still one of the best left tackles in football.
No doubt. But you got to think with that contract that you mentioned, it is just 1 year. They're always looking ahead. The idea that play him at right this season, maybe move him over to left next year. I mean, I don't know. It's possible. Like you said, he does have the history, but you never really know. And they've had such success finding guys along the line in the third day of the draft. Like, I could see why they might wait at the position. But then you get to some point you think, well, they got to take somebody, right? They wouldn't dare go on defense yet again, would they? Of course they would. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an edge defender or a defensive tackle. Neither one of those selections would surprise me at 15.
The hard part about defensive tackle, Kalijah Cansey's the guy that gets thrown around a lot. I don't know if he's a scheme fit for what the Packers do. And outside of him and Jalen Carter, who's likely
going to be gone, most likely.
Yeah, I expect anyone else being there at 15 that I would really like. That being said, an edge rusher, Miles Murphy out of Clemson. I love this kid.
He's the one.
Yep. 6'5", 275. I know he gets a lot of knocks about, his bend and things like that. But you got to put it into perspective, right? Like, that's a huge size for an edge rusher. He's got a little bend to him. His first step's amazing. He can really play the run. And when, we're talking about long-term, Darnell Wright, what's the future if they draft him? Think long-term at edge. Preston Smith might take a hit at some point. And I do want, every time I say this, I want to preface, Preston Smith has been extremely valuable on the Packers defense for what he does, even
Correct.
if it doesn't always show up in the box score. But long-term, Murphy projects as that edge-setting guy with some pass rushing ability. And I just think that's a dream fit for me. That's probably the number one guy in this class. I would root for them taking it.
And especially considering, Rashawn Gary's availability being, you got to think, up in the air, to put it, in the most positive light. He's certainly not going to be ready for the start of the season. You got to have somebody out there, right? I mean, in the mix with, I know they re-signed Hollins, and they've obviously got Preston. And Igbare certainly showed out last year as a rookie, but you're going to need somebody else in that mix. And, I think that would make a world of sense. What do you think about the safety position? I know there's not a ton on offer early in this draft, at least not to traditionally what the Packers have liked at the position, skill set and measurables wise. But is there anybody in this draft class that you think the Packers could take a swing on, maybe on day 2 or 3?
I know they like to take athletes. Justice and I just went over our guys pod, right? And we got gold stars. We got to give out 2 at positions. We both put a star on Chris Smith out of Georgia. This is like a day 2, maybe early day 3 guy. He did not test well. And that's what kind of, worries me as far as a Packers fit. He's a little undersized for his safety. He's the best alley in this class. He loves to attack downhill. He's a great tackler. His attitude, his just general vibe. I know that's a little hard to quantify, right? But he's just plays with his hair on fire. He's a very fun player to watch. He has some coverage skills. He has that, feel of reading the quarterback's eyes, breaking down on a route, as he's getting ready to throw it. It's a skill set that feels like it would fit really well with what they need. Problem is, like you mentioned, this safety class is rough. Outside of Brian Branch, who's probably more of a slot guy, there's just not many options. Other guys I will swing on. Sidney Brown, just that guy loves people, even if he's going to whiff a lot. He is just hyper aggressive. And then another one I think is more of a chess piece, Jay Ward out of LSU. He played like at least 200 snaps at deep box safety, corner, and slot last year for the Tigers. Plays all over the field, really aggressive, moves really well in coverage. Just a chess piece, I think that would fit really well. Because when you think about their safety position right now for Green Bay, pretty much everyone's on one-year deals, and then who knows who's coming back.
Yeah, they definitely need some long-term help there.
Yeah.
You're talking chess pieces. I mean, I don't know. Does Joe Barry play chess? Was it more checkers there in the call sheet? I don't know. But they definitely need help on the back end. And it is funny to think about the long-term planning part of it. And it's like, didn't we just go through this? It feels like they're constantly searching for help at the safety spot, especially in the draft. But you look at their history, especially recently under Brian, and we have got. At least you mentioned like last year where they got, I think it was 6 of the dudes who came in for 30, the top 30 visits ended up on their rosters. I wonder how much of that is permanent. Like last year felt maybe like a little bit of an outlier. It's not like it had been like that under Brian previous years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it maybe does seem to trend that way. And if you look at their visits, I mean, tight ends, defensive tackles, they even have day 3 running backs coming in. I'm interested to see because, again, that's another planning thing, right? You've got A.J. Dillon going into the last year of his rookie deal. You got Aaron Jones kind of restructured his contract, and he's probably set for 2 more years. But I wouldn't be surprised if they took a running back in this draft. Is there anybody that's maybe caught your eye or you think maybe a day 3 flyer or somebody who you think they could potentially look at in the draft and think, this is a guy that we could put into the mix that fits into our offense and somebody that, we don't need to hit the ground running right away, but we could potentially like help develop, so to speak.
I'm going to give a selfish answer first, and that's Kansas State's Deuce Vaughn. He's not big. He is 5'5" and 170 pounds. That is historically small. And by historically, I think the smallest person to ever be at the NFL Combine. That being said, that guy can run. That guy can absolutely run. Great footwork, great vision. His lateral agility is off the charts. He gets in that it doesn't make sense. He can pass protect. It doesn't make sense how he does. Kansas State was so confident in him as a blocker, lead block sweeps. And the way I describe him is that meme of the kid diving through the window head first. That's kind of how he blocks. But like his overall skill set for being that small, like he can run, he can catch, and he will throw his entire body into blocks. They haven't had the Tyler Irvin guy, right? Like they're missing that piece that they've really wanted. They wanted that to be Amari Rodgers. That wasn't the case. This guy could do it. I have no idea if he's on their board. I could very much see them just be like absolutely
striking him just because of his size. Yeah, 100%.
If we're going with a logical get a year ahead of it, take a potential A.J. Dillon replacement. Day 3, I'm thinking like Chris Rodriguez they ran a very pro style offense. He was something like 240, if I recall. He's just a big bowling ball. Good contact balance, is just going to run through guys. So I don't think he's the flashiest prospect, but he had a good year for Kentucky. Just one of those random names I'd keep an eye on in day 3.
I mean, dude, we've gone almost 15 minutes here, and I haven't even asked you about the Aaron Rodgers trade.
What am I doing?
What am I doing here as a content creator on a Packers site? If I don't ask you, do you think the Packers maybe have a few more draft picks to utilize in this draft after a completion successfully of trading Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, or do you think this goes through draft weekend and they're dangling all through the summer?
I think it has to happen by the draft. I've heard all the trade offers and stuff. You keep hearing it's at a standstill, but it sounds like everyone else is saying like there's pads in place and they're just trying to hammer out the final details. I think it gets done on draft day. I think that one of the things I found interesting is a potential compensation that could be lying in wait based on who's there at 13. The Packers just might want to pick swap.
Right.
And if they don't get that guy at 13 and he's not there, it's like a 4th round pick or something. That's where I could see where it becomes a draft day trade. Makes a bit more sense to me. In reality, I don't think the 13 for 12 campaign is going to.
I
Please don't
don't
tell
either.
Justice I said that.
I know, I know. You are a Brian Gutekunst suppressive individual. I understand. It is what it is. But I'm with you. I don't think it materializes either. But I think, look, I'm with you. I think it does materialize either right before the draft or maybe even during the draft. But I do think the Packers will have a few more picks to play with, thanks to the Aaron Rodgers trade.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I want to give a shout out to the Science of Football. Many people out there may not know. Not only are you a football coach, and not only are you a content creator, but you're a published author. The Science of Football. What's that all about?
Yeah. So Will Carroll, our former colleagues, reached out to me. He had done the Science of Baseball. His publisher was looking for a football book, and he's like, "I don't think I can do another one of these all by myself. You want to help out?" So totally understand, because writing half of a book is quite the experience. Great opportunity to just learn more about how the game's moving forward in certain aspects. Offense, defense, passing game, special teams. You want to know why mobile quarterback less frequently than non-mobile quarterbacks? We got you there. If you want to learn about the XFL's kickoff rules and how the NFL could implement those to reduce injuries, we got you there. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. I got in really, really cool people. Hall of Fame offensive tackle Joe Thomas, Sam Schwartzstein, previously with the XFL, Cynthia Freeland with NFL Network. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Just a lot of really impressive individuals to talk to. I'm not a scientist, but I did learn quite a lot about the game.
Awesome. Well, the link to buy it will be in the description of this video. Tyler, I can't thank you enough for joining me, talking a little football, talking a little Packers draft. Really appreciate it. Make sure you check out his work at ACME Packing Company. Tyler, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, of course. Always enjoy being on Cheesehead TV.